Okay, let's talk about the Western Conference for a bit. A couple months ago, I did do a one question for every West team, but I think this one's a little different. We're mostly going to talk about everybody who made the playoffs, or at least made the play-in last year, plus Dallas. So apologies to the Rockets, Spurs, Blazers, and Jazz. I think you guys are all very exciting for different reasons. And who knows, maybe Wemby's good enough to put the Spurs into the play-in tournament. And as always, the order that I talk about these teams in, there's no reason for it. It's just the order it happened to be in. But yeah, and for some reason, I want to start with the Clippers first. And sure, there is a chance that me saying anything about this team besides just Kawhi and PG's health is just me trying too hard, I guess. But I still think there are some things you can say in a positive light for the Clippers, even if those two's health is still the biggest thing. I mean, I did like the Plumlee pickup. I mean, obviously, Plumlee gives them more screen setting, good passer on the roll. Allowing them to have the small ball stuff in their back pocket as opposed to it being something they just kind of have to lean on because they didn't have another center. I think it's a good move for them. Okay, and sure, they can bust out their switchy athletic lineups small ball when they want to. Hopefully, moving forward, it's more Batum and Covington in the lineup and not so much Marcus Morris. So there's that. And then the other thing that's with this team always is they just need to get enough at the rim attempts, right? And you would hope between Terrence Mann, Westbrook, and Norm Powell that they can get that, because all three of those dudes are looking to get to the rim and, working off the catch, that sort of thing. KJ Martin should be able to help out with this as well. Bones is trying to cook. We'll see if he gets the opportunity like that with them. Obviously, the James Harden something is there for them right now, but I don't know. Although I will say that if Terrence Mann is really the one holding that trade up, then that does sound kind of wild. Now, if it's more so that they don't want to give up future picks, given the amount that they've already given up for this team, that to me is more understandable. We'll see with all that. Next up, we're going to go to Sacktown. So I do think there's actually been a decent amount of pessimism around the Kings this offseason. I think the go-to thing I've heard is, well, they were among the healthiest teams in the league last year, so just the fates of basketball, I guess, are going to say that they're going to get a little less lucky there. And yeah, obviously health is going to matter for everybody. Some, it's the thing you go to more than others. Look, I think if De'Aaron Fox can keep up his outrageous shot making in the paint, but not in the restricted area, those floaters or those jumpers that he would take around the free throw line, then I would like to think that their offense is still going to be great, because we know the Sabonis handoff actions with all the shooters and obviously the Sabonis Fox two-man game. I don't really see a reason as to why it would slip. Now, maybe just simple shot making might slip a little bit compared to last season, but I would like to think that they're still going to generate a lot of open looks. And as far as Keegan Murray, whether it's more reps on the ball, whether it's him just simply looking to shoot more threes, I mean, he's already got the open catch and shoots down. There's no doubt about that. You have that. I've already talked enough about Vezenkov and how I want to see him featured in there. And I mean, he's certainly got the DNA for screening and running handoff actions, and obviously he can make tough shots. The other thing is the defense. And yes, they are going to have to find some sort of way to go from 25th in defense last regular season to, I don't know, even if you can get to like 17th, that would be huge. And as far as what the defense looked like, I mean, from what I remember, it was a lot of like Sabonis at the level of the screen, Harrison Barnes as the help guy coming out of the corner. And I mean, it wasn't great. For what it's worth, their defense was actually better on the road than it was at home. Looking at their personnel, it doesn't scream a roster that should be in the top half of the league defensively. I mean, right after they lost to the Warriors, I said, in my opinion, the number one thing they need is a really athletic, like four who can be a weak side defender and that sort of thing. It's not very easy to get some of those guys. And of course, everybody in the league could use a really good two-way wing who can switch across a few positions, so we'll include them in that as well. They should still be very fun. I do find myself being optimistic about Sacramento overall, if anything, because being a great offense typically just racks up regular season wins. And yes, Davion is on this team, but Davion is not going to one-man this defense into like the 12th best or whatever. Now let's go to the Nuggets. So, I mean, everybody's talked about the Bruce Brown thing enough. Christian Brown's going to get more minutes. They are heavily, maybe not heavily is the word, but they believe in Peyton Watson a lot. Yeah, he's got the size and athleticism. We'll see as far as just the offensive game. Look, man, if you force me to pick one team in the West to win it, I'm going to take the Nuggets. And we'll get to the Suns and the Lakers and everybody in this video too, but if I was going to try to imagine what would cause them not to win it again, or at least not get to the finals at least, I mean, obviously injuries, that's a given. In MPJ, his back is always going to be a thing. But the only thing that I can imagine is if their defense just slips very hard from last year, because in the playoffs, they were as good as you could have asked them to be defensively, whether that was Jokic in a typical drop, Jokic higher up on screens, they were putting two on the ball against the Suns, and that was really effective. Of course, the Suns have Bradley Beal now, so, that might not be as simple of a strategy on defense for you. But can I also just say that with how huge Aaron Gordon is for this team, obviously what he does as a cutter around Jokic and how versatile he is defensively for him. And also at times in the playoffs, just being like, you're going to put a smaller guy on me? No, you're not. I'm going to dunk on his face. He's making $22 million this upcoming season. That feels like such a bargain with how much salaries are going up now and stuff. And KCP remains just one of the most perfect guys you could imagine for a specific spot on a team. Yeah, it's about it, because offensively, I mean, no one can guard Jokic, all right? The question of, well, do you have someone who can make him work, make him slow down? Based on the evidence we got so far, nobody can do it. I mean, we saw him cooking against AD and Bam in the playoffs. And yes, the Lakers had some time when Rui was on him and then AD was the help guy, I know, but AD was on him a lot. Jamal Murray should continue to be fantastic. Like, these guys are right up there again for a reason. Now we can go to Phoenix. So I've already talked in the preseason, in both of my overreaction preseason videos, about how I appreciate that the Suns' offense is not just simple ISOs. You know, they're getting Nurkic involved with screens, handoff actions. He's got some, like, chemistry going on with KD where he just, like, has a sixth sense of where the guy is, or they've got, like, some backdoor cut chemistry going already. I like that the big three are screening for each other in various ways on or off the ball. And, of course, Book, Beal, and KD's shot making is just outrageous. Okogie's good on the ball. Grayson Allen, good rotation piece, the whole thing. Phoenix should be great. Defensively, of course, you're hoping for Nurkic to hold up. I will keep on saying that I think KD is a little underrated as a help defender. Unless he isn't, in which case, my bad. I'm also interested to see where the pace ends up with this team. It's probably going to be higher than what it was on average for the CP days. Okay, I'm not going to leave Laker fans waiting any longer. Assuming that Anthony Davis and LeBron can get their games in, then yeah, man, they're going to be towards the top of the thing in the regular season. And I mean, you could give these guys any seeding at all, and they're going to be scary in the playoffs. What Anthony Davis did as a rim protector against the Grizzlies and also against the Warriors, but then he also had to play up higher on screens against the Warriors. Like, it was the craziest thing, man, to see two different teams just be like, we don't know what to do against this guy. Although the Warriors did have some cool moments where, like, GP2 was screening for Steph, and okay, like, that definitely helped him out a little bit, but it just felt inevitable that Anthony Davis was just, just a one-man wrecking crew with the paint. And so LeBron, who is still a very good help defender, you have Gabe Vincent, who's going to be tough on the ball, D'Lo, who has proclaimed himself, or that's not the right word, he's hoping to be Derek White on defense, screen navigation, tough on the ball, the whole thing. You definitely love to see it from D'Lo. You love the acknowledgement. We'll just see if it is a thing long-term. I think preseason-wise, he's been encouraging defensively so far. And I don't want to beat you over the head with the Austin Reeves stuff, but yes, hopefully from the jump we see more pick-and-roll possessions for him screening for LeBron screening for him, because that was one of their most reliable two-man games in the Nuggets series. The last question is about LeBron and, between the foot injury, age, stamina management, all that stuff, how often can we see him just go into mismatch hunting mode? And how much LeBron AD pick and roll can we realistically ask for moving forward? Between, obviously LeBron's age and just what it takes out of him to run that play a bunch of times, teams trying to switch it or just collapse the paint like crazy against it. Let's go to the Warriors. I've already said that I am suddenly a pretty decently big fan of the Chris Paul, Kevon Looney pick and roll. Whether it's empty corner, Chris rejecting the screen, hitting a pull-up two over Taurean Prince or whatever. We've already seen some early passes in transition from Chris. We've seen him involved in some, corner, get a handoff action, do the next thing plays. We've seen him and Steph already involved in little screen actions together on and off the ball. I think his fit is there. I mean, obviously the big question is if he can hold up, but, he should make their bench lineups much better. They are potentially not going to have Draymond at the start of the year, so okay, that certainly doesn't help them. I think if the Kuminga breakout season is ever going to happen, it's going to be this year. And I mean, if you want to look at that recent preseason game he had against the Kings, the thing that was most encouraging to me was the moments in the half court where he was just like, oh, I got Alex Len on a switch. All right, let me take you off the dribble. De'Aaron Fox, you're in front of me. I'm just going to run through you, man. And for whatever reason, I feel like at some point this year, we're going to get a LeBron D. Wade-esque full court alley-oop, but it's going to be Chris Paul to Kuminga. We'll see where Klay's defense holds up, and obviously Steph is as amazing as ever. Yeah, I think the Chris Paul-Jordan Poole swap, as crazy as it was for the age difference and all that, I do think it makes this season's Warriors a better team. And as I say that, I recognize Jordan Poole's going to score. He's going to have some big scoring games with the Wizards, and also Chris Paul, the health is going to always be a concern. And shout out to Wiggins, who's one of the most reliable dudes in the league at this point. Now let's go to the Grizzlies. Desmond Bane was already in my 10 players to watch for this upcoming season. I'm talking about, as most people probably have, more DHOs, more pick and rolls. His catch and shoots as well as pull-up threes have both been excellent in his career so far. And so how that looks for him when Ja is out and then also when Ja is back, just how much opportunity is he getting, we'll see. Of course, Jaren's post-ups and shots in the paint but not right at the rim, saw a pretty decent improvement last year. His three-point percentage was up, and I do think through footwork and whatever else, Jaren just looks a little more graceful around there, whereas I think in the past it would sometimes look like just a bunch of bodies crashing into each other as he tries to hoist up a hook shot. Like, he's definitely improved in that area of the floor. The Grizzlies' offense is kind of weird because their half-court offense has not, from an efficiency standpoint, been as good as I think the roster suggests it would be. Like, Steven Adams, great screen setter. Of course, Ja and everything he can do with getting downhill and the gravity he creates. But through teams packing the floor on, like, Dylan Brooks, they're daring Jaren to make shots. And I do also think through probably an over-reliance on Ja Morant pick and rolls up top, their half-court offense was like never as good as it could have been, and also the offensive rebounding of Steven Adams is like kind of what elevated their half-court offense to a different level. Transition offense, they've been great. Defense, they've been very good. Of course, Marcus Smart, he's going to provide for them, I think, everything Dylan Brooks did on the ball. He's going to be a smarter offensive player. I would bet that Smart has, I mean, he's got a defensive player of the year under his belt, so I'm not going to say his best regular season, but I think he's definitely going to be better defensively than what he was last regular season for the Celtics. And so they do project well, even if I do think they still could use a move for like another wing player, as again, basically anybody in the league could do. They're just going to have to get the half-court offense to a new level, and whether that's more variety, more pick and rolls for other guys, Ja off the ball, whatever. I mean, I'm sure they would love for Jaren at center to be a thing so they could get like more spacing out there, but I think Steven Adams with Jaren is just better than Jaren alone, or Xavier Tillman as well, instead of Steven Adams, whichever one. They have really good center rotation. So we'll see with the Grizzlies, man, but of course we're not going to see Ja Morant for a while. Also very intrigued with Santi Aldama as a skilled, tall dude. Now we can go to the T-Wolves, and hopefully I'm not just repeating everything I said in my video with them a couple months ago now. Look, when Cat and Gobert were on the court together, the small sample size of them on the court together, even if Rudy was like noticeably a little worse, just from the eye test and everything, some of that him being tired from international play, some of that the chemistry of the defense his teammates were used to playing and what he's used to playing. For what it's worth, it would not surprise me if Rudy bounced back into like, supernova rim protector. And even if he doesn't, I mean, the slightly worse version of what Gobert's been for a long time now is still one of the best rim protectors, defensive players, all that. And so between Rudy, Jaden McDaniels, who of course, fantastic one-on-one defender, where Edwards can get to defensively, Kyle Anderson as well, I would like to think all the signs are there for them being really good on defense. Although the counter to that is, yes, well, Cat still needs to figure out a bit of, if he's defending more on the perimeter and all that. I understand. And there was some awkwardness with Cat and Gobert on the court together, specifically in transition. Like, both of them wanted to do the center's job in transition. It's like, well, one of you has to pick up the guy at the corner, Their defensive rating was very good with them on the court together. The problem was more so the offense. And from what I remember, with those two on the floor, their offense was at its best when they ran set plays, where it was like Rudy and Cat both screening on the ball, maybe both on the same side, maybe one or the other side, whatever, for like D'Lo or Edwards before they made the Conley trade. You can apply this to Conley as well later on. And, then it would be like Cat popping, Rudy rolling, that sort of thing. But I do think they're going to have to figure out more of the freelance offense, and that's just going to be simple, like one of the bigs screening for Edwards or Conley without like a set play and everybody just kind of space where you got to space out to, Also, maybe this doesn't mean anything because, again, not a large sample size of the two bigs together, and also Cat was dealing with like being sick at the beginning of the year and, eventually lost a lot of time. His stuff around the rim, like the percentage of his shots from around the basket was down last year, which I don't think is a coincidence after the Gobert trade. Should I care? Should I not? I have no idea. As far as where Ant is going to get to, I mean, I said this in that last video I did on them. His drives were a little up last season. His free throw attempts were a little up last season, and that is the biggest thing for me. Because, like, at this point, I've accepted he's going to attempt contested jump shots, and he's gotten better at them throughout his career, so okay, that's nice. I just took a look at ESPN's Top 100, which made a bunch of people mad. This is just a reference point. They predict that Edwards is going to finish this upcoming season as the 13th best player in the NBA. I think for that sort of thing to happen, Edwards is going to have to make some pretty decent strides with his efficiency. I mean, I understand the physical gifts, the fact that he can go off on any random game, and his performance in, international play suggests this could be the year that he just goes to like a different stratosphere as a player. But, you look at the assist to turnover stuff, you look at the true shooting, like that's the most important stuff. And then, I mean, defensively, I think his ceiling is very high just with all the physical tools. In my one question for every Western Conference team video, I talked about Jaden McDaniels' potential growth on offense. I think he can handle more three-point attempts. I think he's got a bit of a bully ball thing to him. He gets on some physical drives, catching drives, that sort of thing. If you run him with an action out of the corner, he's not just a stand still and just only shoot open shots offensive player. And then, of course, Conley's as solid as ever. Kyle Anderson, same thing. The Wolves should be good, man. And shout out to Naz Reid. Okay, we have 3 left. The Pelicans. So CJ, Zion, and Ingram have played, I believe, 173 games together. I checked that at NBA.com. Zach Lowe said it's been 10 games total. Okay. I mean, look, Zion has looked effective with the ball in his hands, running pick and roll. And the potential of him screening for, let's say, CJ a lot. Yeah, both of them sound great because the dude is basically a graceful Mack truck who does not care who's in front of him. He's going to the rim. And we all know Brandon Ingram gets buckets. And then, of course, Valanciunas around the basket to finish stuff. I mean, Trey Murphy's out early on, so that's not fun. For what it's worth on defense, I don't know if I should care about this or not. They were better with Valanciunas off the court last year defensively. I think when he was on the court, from what I remember, they were mostly having him level of the screen, if not just a simple drop with rotations behind it. And I mean, Valanciunas, he's not on the list of best rim protectors in the league, but at the same time, he's still one of the more unique centers with his physical scoring around the rim, right? Of course, love Herb Jones, love Larry Nance, love Alvarado. It's just the stars got to be healthy, and if they are, this team is very exciting, and if they're not, I don't know what to tell you. Now we go to OKC, and I mean, I've already said this in the preseason. I think Chet at center is just the most exciting version of this team. Can screen for SGA, Chet, and J-Dub. I just said Chet, I meant Giddy. And then he can shoot if he's open. He can take opposing fives or whoever teams are going to put on him off the dribble. If they're giving him space like that on the other end, obviously the rim protection and also the help defense from J-Dub at the same time. J-Dub's wingspan is pretty crazy. His instincts as a help defender are there. And those two, along with Lou Dort, being physical on the ball and Cason Wallace coming in and everything, they should be good on defense, man. I mean, last year they were good on defense without Chet, and it was more of a scrambling defense. I would bet this one is a little safer because you can do that with a really good rim protector. And as far as the other stuff, I mean, SGA is amazing. You don't really need me to tell you much. Giddy, the two things with him have always been the shooting, and then also physical drives, where I do think he was showing some more signs of that last season. We will see how much of the offense they give to J-Dub. He can certainly handle the ball, run, pick and roll, the whole thing. It's just, it's SGA's offense, of course. And then finally, we have Dallas. I feel like I've talked about Derek Lively a million times this offseason. I just talked about him recently, and yeah, rim protection, good. I think finishing around the basket suggests that's going to be there. Lob threat for Luka and Kyrie, the whole thing. We'll see where the screen setting is. I think he was trending upwards based on where he was at in Summer League as a screen setter. Will we see Lively encouraged to do other things on offense besides be a screen setter and roll? My guess is going to be not really. At least not this early on. I've already said I love the Grant Williams pickup. I saw him screen for Luka once in one of those T-Wolves preseason games, and I was like, yep, this is all I need to see because I know he's going to knock down corner threes. I know he's going to guard probably every position on the court throughout the season as Jason Kidd. I think he's going to view Grant Williams as his, do a little bit of everything guy on defense for him. Josh Green's good, Kleba's good, and then obviously Luka and Kyrie. And yeah, I mean, with them, we will see if they get into screening for each other just for the sake of having variety in the offense. But their offense should be great just off of those two on the court together. Keep one of them on the court as the other one is on the bench, the whole thing. I understand their record together was not great, but talent is talent, and I just think that's going to win out. And as far as those two specifically, I mean, with Luka, we will see if his relentless post-ups, especially on smaller guys, continues into this upcoming season, because I think out of the gates last year, he was really leaning into that. And then I think as the year went on, he was still doing it, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if he was as ruthless in doing that as he was in game 74 as he was in game 2. And as for Kyrie, I mean, Kyrie is Kyrie. Not much for me to tell you. He's great. He's going to make a whole bunch of shots. He can flow off the ball pretty well. I mean, he did it with LeBron for a long time there. I think he could do it with Luka fine. So yeah, there you go.